Patriot Guard, present arms. Order, arms.
Good morning. On behalf of the family, thank you for coming today as we pay our final respects to Pearl Harbor Eddie. Just for your information, there will be a helicopter flyover this morning. If the ceremony stops because the helicopter is making too much noise, don't be surprised. We'll pick up after it starts to fly off. At this time, U.S. Navy Chaplain Rodriguez will give us the invocation.
Let's bow our heads in prayer. Eternal Father, this morning we bid fair winds and following seas to a hometown hero, a Navy sailor, World War II veteran, and one of our last Pearl Harbor survivors, Mr. Eddie Hammond. Lord, as we lay him to rest, we are thankful for his loyal service to our nation. We have been blessed for the many years of life you allowed Mr. Hammond to grace this land and forge a legacy of honor, courage, and commitment. I pray for a blessing upon his memory and his family and friends. Today, Lord, comfort our hearts and grant us peace. In his holy name we pray this morning. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Post the colors.
Patriot Guard, present arms.
Order, arms. It's time to ask Captain Larry Watkins to come up and give us some words on Pearl Harbor, the significance of today, and specifically how it applies to Eddie.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's an honor to be here. I'm humbled and honored. I bring to you a message from the Commander, Navy Region Hawaii, from the Navy Surface Middle Pacific Group, Rear Admiral Ford, remembering to look forward, rising to the challenge of Pearl Harbor. Winston Churchill, who was a World War I warfighter and World War II Prime Minister of Britain, famously said, "The longer you can look back, the further you can look forward." Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day is an opportunity for the world's citizens, especially those of the United States and Japan, to remember key lessons of the past and reflect on the meaning of the Second World War. 76 years ago, under Western sanctions for having invaded Manchuria in Southeast Asia, Imperial Japan miscalculated and attacked Oahu. Veterans who were around then said they knew that war was inevitable. War was already underway in Europe, as Churchill tried to stave off Hitler and the Nazis. When Japanese planes destroyed our battleships in Pearl Harbor, we rose to the challenge to fight fascism, both here in the Pacific and in Europe. On the home front, families rose to challenges, confronted new realities. Women joined the workforce in non-traditional occupations. The armed forces became more diversified. Our nation came together in the name of freedom. In the first year after the attack here in the Pacific, despite some initial setbacks, our aviators literally rose up in the Battle of the Coral Sea, the Battle of Midway. Submarines and surface forces took the fight to the enemy like never before. We continued to turn the tide in the Battle of Guadalcanal 75 years ago. Just as our military would descend throughout Europe to fight fascism, our Marines, soldiers, sailors, and Coast Guardsmen would rise from the South Pacific and move steadily up the island chain towards the Japanese archipelago. Even back then, we were ready to fight tonight. Today, America's relationship with the people of Japan is a model for good citizenry and good relationships everywhere, including Britain, France, Germany, who were once mortal enemies, and in some cases over centuries, are now strong democracies, friends, and allies in Europe. Our Navy trains and operates with the Japanese Self-Defense Force and other navies throughout the world, including here, Hawaii, and the rim of the Pacific exercise. It's a world with just a few outliers that value security, prosperity, and stability. History shows democracies in general work together to foster peace and cooperation. Churchill encouraged us to take a look deep into the past to study history and understand how we can look forward. On this day, December 7th, we once again remember and honor those who were killed 76 years ago and in the war that followed. At the same time, we will commemorate the reconciliation, security, stability, and prosperity our veterans and their families achieved beginning here at Pearl Harbor. So that's the message from the Deputy Pac Fleet Commander out there, and I wanted to talk about Pearl Harbor in general. So I'm going to give you a little bit of the story if you don't know, and if you do know, let us know if there's any changes after I'm done. So the lead up to the attack, basically the Japanese military began laying plans to attack Pearl Harbor as early as January 1941. Although it was Japanese Admiral Yamamoto who initiated the plans for the attack on Pearl Harbor, Commander Genda was the plan's chief architect. The Japanese used the code name Operation Hawaii for the attack, which was later changed to Operation Z, or Zulu as we like to say in the military. 6 aircraft carriers left Japan for Hawaii on November 26, carrying a total of 408 fighter aircraft, joining 5 midget submarines that had departed a day earlier. Japan's military planners specifically chose to attack on a Sunday because they believed the Americans would be more relaxed and thus less alert on a weekend. In the hours before the attack, the Japanese force stationed itself approximately 230 miles north of Oahu. So let's talk about what was going on at Pearl Harbor. So the ships in the harbor and the harbor facilities, I'll give you an overview to kind of say, hey, are we ready? In December of 1941, the entrance to Pearl Harbor was protected by 2 nets. An outer anti-torpedo net with boat booms consisting of cross pipes to prevent surface crafts from entering into the harbor, and an inner anti-torpedo net without boat booms. The net served to guard the harbor against submarines as well as torpedo attacks. Many installations in the harbor at the time of the attack were less than 3 years old. Some of the major installations included a battleship dock built in 1928, one under construction, a floating dry dock, 18,000 ton, a large repair basin containing industrial installations capable of repairing anything afloat, a fuel depot, 2 tank farms above ground, a submarine base, a section base, and the 14th Naval District Headquarters and Naval Station Fort Island. As it goes for the ships were in the harbor. There were 8 of the 9 Pacific battleships, 29,000 to 33,000 tons each. Some of the states you'll know, so the Nevada, Arizona, West Virginia, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Maryland, California, we're all on Battleship Row, and the USS Pennsylvania, near and dear to my heart, being from Pittsburgh, was in dry dock at Navy Yard 1. 2 heavy cruisers, the New Orleans and San Francisco, were in the Navy Yard, as well as 4 light cruisers, about 10,000 tons each, St. Louis, Honolulu, Helena, and Phoenix. And then their light cruisers, Raleigh and Detroit, were about 7,000 tons. There were 29 destroyers that were moored in northwest of Ford Island, 5 submarines, which were also in the Navy Yard, along with a gunboat, 11 minesweepers, and 23 auxiliary ships that did repair, oilers, tenders, storage ships, as well as tugs were located throughout the harbor. Fortunately, there were no carriers in the harbor. The 3 carriers that were assigned to the fleet were the Enterprise, which was 375 miles west of Pearl Harbor en route to Hawaii from Wake Island. The USS Lexington was 460 miles southwest of Midway en route to Pearl Harbor to ferry a Marine Corps bomber squadron to Midway. And then the Saratoga was en route from the west coast to Hawaii. All ships at Pearl Harbor were what we call Readiness Condition 3. A quarter of the anti-aircraft batteries and necessary control stations were manned and ready with ammunitions at the gun mounts. Ships in that condition of readiness were required to be able to get underway within 12 hours. Okay, a little part of the Pearl Harbor story that a lot of folks don't know is that America struck the first blow, right? So, Japanese first contact occurred with the USS Ward as she was conducting anti-submarine patrol outside the harbor at the night, December 6th, early into the morning, December 7th. At 2 a.m., the minesweepers Condor and Crossbill stood out Pearl Harbor and began sweeping operations. At 3:45 a.m., the Condor, operating about 1.75 miles from the harbor entrance, sighted a submarine periscope about 100 feet away. The periscope disappeared immediately, but the Condor notified the Ward of the sighting by visual signal. The Ward's crew immediately went to general quarters, and the ship began an extensive search for the unidentified craft. The submarine was spotted by the Ward at 0640 a.m. The ship closed the sub immediately and commenced an attack with her guns and depth charges at 6:45 a.m. The second salvo from the guns made a direct hit on the craft's conning tower, and the vessel sank. A large oil bubble appeared on the surface at 0706, and the Ward notified the 14th Naval District Duty Officer of the contact. The following message was received at District Headquarters at 0712 a.m. We have attacked, fired upon, and dropped depth charges upon a submarine operating in the defensive sea area. The information was reported to the Pacific Fleet Duty Officer at 7:15. The first word, the unidentified submarines were operating in the defensive area. When the Ward's report was received, the ready-duty destroyer Monaghan was ordered to sea to verify the report and relay details to the Fleet Duty Officer. 40 minutes later, across the waterfront and the shore, word had gotten out to everybody, so everybody was operating at ops normal. So, as a sailor, every ship on the waterfront, the time 0755 has significance as it's the time to prepare to execute morning colors. At 0800, we play the national anthem across the waterfront aboard all ships, synchronized to music on the radio net, and raise Old Glory to start our Navy Day. But on December 7th, 1941, PrEP had a very different meaning. It signified the first wave of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. At 7:55 a.m. Pearl Harbor time, the Pearl Harbor signal tower telephoned the Pacific Fleet commander. Enemy air raid, not drill. At the same time, the Japanese torpedo planes began attacking ships on Battleship Row for almost 2 hours until 9:45 a.m. Pearl Harbor was under attack. There was a 5-phase attack. The first phase lasted from 0755 to 825 with a focus of torpedo planes and dive bomber attacks. The second phase was from 0825 to 0840 where there was a break in the action. From 0840 to 915 there were horizontal bomber attacks, and from 915 to 945 there were more dive bomber attacks. And then phase 5 ended with the completion of the raid. The only attack on Ford Island took place in the opening minutes. 70 patrol boats, float planes, and carrier-type scout bombers on the field caught fire. resulting in 33 being destroyed or severely damaged. The major damage in the first wave was done by torpedo planes. They launched their torpedoes from extremely low altitude, as low as 50 to 100 feet. In the harbor's shallow water did not prevent the successful execution of these attacks, since the torpedoes had been specially fitted with wooden fins to compensate for the water depth. The number of aircraft in the first phase of the attack has been estimated at 21, including light, medium, and incendiary dive bombers. During the second phase, the second attack in the first phase, a bomb hit the 14-inch powder magazine aboard the Arizona and ignited an intense fire engaging Tennessee and Ford Island. The majority of torpedo and damage inflicted on the fleet was done by 8:25 a.m. By that time, all outboard battleships and battleship row had received one or more torpedo hits or one or more bombs, with the exception of Oklahoma and Pennsylvania. The Oklahoma took 4 torpedo hits before she capsized, and the Pennsylvania took 1 bomb later in the attack. By the end of the first phase, West Virginia was sinking, California was down by the stern, and the Arizona was burning. Although the first phase came as a complete surprise, defensive action by the fleet was immediate. Battleship guns opened up fire immediately, and within 5 minutes, nearly all battleships and anti-aircraft batteries were firing. Cruiser and anti-aircraft batteries were in action within 4 minutes, and destroyers in an average of 7 minutes. The anti-aircraft fire shot down 29 Japanese planes over Pearl Harbor. By 9:45, the enemy planes had left the area. The Japanese task force had returned to Japan without being contacted by any American units. In Pearl Harbor, 18 warships had either been sunk or seriously damaged. The first battleship damaged in the attack to return from action to the mainland was the Maryland. At the conclusion, casualties were 2,408 killed, 1,178 wounded, for a total of 3,586 casualties. The Japanese lost 65 men, with additional soldiers being captured. Note, there were many more who were known to receive wounds from shrapnel and other flying debris that didn't receive hospitalization due to the crowded medical facilities, and no medical records were kept. So there was a lot of unreported activity there. That day there were also awards for heroism. 15 Medal of Honor recipients, 51 Navy Crosses, 53 Silver Stars, 4 Navy and Marine Corps medals, 1 Distinguished Flying Cross, 4 Distinguished Service Crosses, 1 Distinguished Service Medal, and 3 Bronze Stars. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the following day, President of the United States Franklin Delano Roosevelt addressed a joint session of Congress seeking a declaration of war against Japan, and what would become one of his most memorable speeches. Roosevelt declared that December 7, 1941 would be a date that will live in infamy. Only one legislator, Representative Jeanette Rankin of Montana, voted against the declaration. On December 8th, Japan officially declared war against the U.S., and 3 days later, Germany followed suit. World War II had begun. So that's the story of Pearl Harbor, and kind of like to fast forward the clock and just give a little sentiment of how I met Pearl Harbor Eddie and what it was like to know him here tonight. So I met a guy they called Pearl Harbor Eddie back in 2006. All right, hard to follow that up. I'll wrap up with Pearl Harbor Eddie was one of those men. He was a true Navy man. When I was promoted to captain, we had a promotion ceremony in which Pearl Harbor Eddie and Lucky Chucky pinned eagles on my collar. I think Pearl Harbor Eddie was more excited than I was to get promoted to captain. Every time after that promotion, I would always hear him say, "I need to speak to the captain, I need to talk to the captain." So he was a true American through and through. I'm honored and humbled to have shared our common history on Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, and I thank you all for being here. Thank you very much.
This time we'll commence with the military honors.
For those who are able, please stand for the rendering of military honors. You are invited to place your right hand over your heart.
Patriot Guard, present arms.
Rifle team, fire 3 volleys. Detail, and salute.
Fire! Aim. Aim. Present arms.
Ready, two. Thank you. Let me see. On behalf of the President of the United States Navy, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation your father's honorable and faithful service to our country. On behalf of the United States Navy, we extend our condolences to all of you. Left, face.
At this time, Chuck McLaughlin has a few words to speak about Eagle.
On behalf of Colleen's family, daughter, Mary, a couple of friends, and everybody here, they just like to thank you from the bottom of their heart. It's been a rough ride the last month, and before that. But everybody was so damn proud of this guy. Everybody knew him, and what comes to mind is what General Patton once said: "You don't mourn guys like Pearl Harbor, Eddie. You never mourn him. You thank God he was here. And we may have had the opportunity to meet him. And we have. I want to thank them, the military, for all the things they've done, the helicopter. Unbelievable. It was just very thankful from their heart. And plus the emotion, and all our guys from the DAV, the riders, all the sailors, all the friends. It helps. It helps a lot. We're Collins by ourselves right now, and this really soothes a lot of things. But, you know, they asked me to make a few remarks, and the only thing I can come up with is being an almost Eagle Scout. I think of the traits that they always wanted us to be as citizens, as military, or whatever. And, you know, the traits were, you know, were you trustworthy? He was trustworthy. Very trustworthy. Anything you said to him, he kept. Was he loyal? He was loyal to his wife 60 or 70 years. Big young guy. Was he helpful? Any fundraiser we had, anybody that needed help, he was there. He actually volunteered for over 20 years at the hospital in the mailroom to make sure that he had comfort to the patients. Was he friendly? Maybe too friendly at times. Everybody knew him, everybody praised him. Not everybody recognized the significance of an icon from Pearl Harbor, because there's been Korea, you know, and you have the Vietnam, and you have the other conflicts. But this was truly an icon in our history. It changed the tide of the world. You know, helpful, you know, was he respectful? Absolutely. Absolutely. He was trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous. He was courteous to everybody. Nobody ever had bad. He had a tough streak in him, right? But he was good. He was a good human person. He was not without fault, but he carried himself. He could have been a movie. He could have been a movie star. And we have Monica. I don't know if you got a brochure like this, but please get one. I mean, there's a picture when he was young. Please have one for a memento from the family. We have that. Was he kind? Very kind. He was very generous. You know, he had lost 2 sons previously. He had Colleen. He watched her like a hawk. His favorite saying was, "Stay away from the Marines." He was a hawk. Was he kind? He was very kind. He was a very kind gentleman. Stubborn? I mean, he was stubborn. But he was an absolute great representative of Pearl Harbor. As a young man, when you think about what Captain Larry said, you think back, they were ambushed. They were young kids. We had never been to really a big war like that. And all of a sudden, everything broke loose. He didn't know what to do. I said, "What did you do?" He said, "We had to go to the armory and they gave us a rifle." I said, "What did you do?" He said, "I never fired a rifle before." They said, "Go over to the ball field," where they had played baseball and softball. I said, "What for?" He said, "Because they thought they were going to parachute in." He said, we're shooting straight up in the air. He said, but I'll never forget the meatball on the plane. He said, come and below us. I said, you know, really, he was a young kid, he's 17, and he was out because his birthday was coming up. You know, 17, you think back when you were 17. That was it. That was the thing. But we truly have lost an icon. We truly lost a great friend. Always remember when you talk about Pearl Harbor, Colleen never had a name. She was always Pearl Harbor's daughter. Never had a name. Now, Colleen, you got your name with you. But thank you for everybody coming. We really appreciate the military, our Marine buddies. Thank you so much for everything that you did. It was very special today. God bless you. Thank you.
Retire the colors.
Details. What time? Mark. Wheel left. Mark. Forward. Mark.
My name is Edward Denholm, Drive Captain of the Southeast Florida Patriot Guard Riders. First, I'd like to thank you for allowing us the honor to be here today. It's an honor we don't take lightly. We're all volunteers. America has lost another hero. This little token of our appreciation, we'd like to present you at this point. The necklace is a little remembrance of you allowing us to be here.
Thank you.
Again, our deepest condolences on your loss. My condolences.
At this time, we'll have the benediction.
Let's all stand. And let's bow our heads. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea. Dear God, we heard the story, and we are honored to be in this sacred place. Now dismiss us with your blessing and continue to guide this nation, and that we may never forget the sacrifices of the greatest generation. Lord, we look upon the day when you will split the heavens. As lightning streaks from the east to the west, you will come again and raise our fallen, raise our heroes of this life to live eternally in a much better place. Bless our families, dear God, as we wait, that we may never forget Mr. Hammond. In your precious, holy name, amen.
This concludes the service. Thank you again on behalf of the family. Thank you.